Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa Kazem and today's video is about fall books. We're going to be talking about books that I've read that I recommend, my fall TBR, and just some other books that I really want to read. If you saw my previous reading vlog, you'll know that I am done with my summer TBR and now we're going to talk about all the books I want to read for fall. This is basically most of them right here and I didn't realize I had this many. So we're going to go through them, talk about them briefly, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So the first thing I want to talk about is books that I have read that I would recommend for this season that I think are really great. The first book I would recommend this season is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I feel like a lot of people have heard about this book by now, but if you haven't, this is a really great romantic thriller. I would just say it's a thriller, but it's really, really good. It's about this girl named Lowen. She's a writer and she meets this man named Jeremy, and Jeremy and Verity are husband and wife. Verity has been in an accident and she's unable to finish writing her series, so Jeremy offers for Lowen to come to stay at their house and write the rest of Verity's series for her. But when Lowen gets there, she discovers a manuscript with a bunch of secrets about Jeremy and Verity's family, and she's conflicted and doesn't know what to do, and at the same time she's starting to fall for Jeremy. This book really spooked me out and it was such a wonderful thrill to read. It definitely fits the Halloween type of season, so if you want to be spooked, read this one. The next one is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This is a young adult fantasy, but it doesn't feel like young adult when you're reading it. This is about Princess Karina and a poor boy named Malik. They are basically set on a path to kill each other, which sounds really corny, but it's not. It makes a lot of sense when you read the story. And the reason I'd recommend this for spooky season is because there is spooky stuff that happens in this book as well as in the sequel. It's a fantasy, but like there's some terrifying stuff that goes on even though it's young adult, so I'd really recommend this one. The next book is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. This is about a spooky hotel that magically moves around and you have to be invited in order to attend, but once you've been a guest at the hotel and you leave, you don't remember a thing about it. And the story focuses on these two sisters who are able to somehow get into the hotel, but everything is not as it seems. I gave this book 3 stars at the time, but now when I'm reflecting on it, I think I would give it a 4-star. This was really, really good. There's a little bit of a romance. There's so much deceit and creepy stuff in it, but it's very magical at the same time, so this is great for the season. The next book is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. This is basically a retelling of Frankenstein written from Elizabeth's perspective. If you don't know the story of Frankenstein, I would recommend going into this blind. I went into this blind without knowing the original Frankenstein story, and I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Frankenstein, and it's so interesting hearing Elizabeth's perspective versus Victor's perspective. Also, the writing style of this is not as Old English as the original Frankenstein, so if you want a Frankenstein type of vibe but you don't want to read all the Old English, this one really does it well. The next book is Fables and Other Lies by Claire Contreras. This book is a really spooky, romantic, gothic type of vibe, and it was really, really cool. This is about 2 families that live on an island that are enemies, and the daughter is a photographer who left, and then she comes back to the island. She ends up meeting the son of the other family. The son's family is really, really rich, and everyone believes that there's a curse and a devil involved. Like, it's really, really weird, and I can't explain too much without giving it away, but this is such a fantastic story and perfect for the season. This is also a very sexy story. Like, it's spooky, but very sexy. The next book is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This book is a dark retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale. Even if you don't know the original fairy tale, you can go into this blind and it's just absolutely amazing. So there are 12 wealthy princesses and the book begins with, I think 4 or 5 of them are already dead, and one of the sisters believes that it's not an accident that her sisters are dying, and so she starts to investigate the murder. This is very haunting, very ghostly, a lot of creepy stuff going on, and it has a really big reveal in it that I wasn't expecting, and this is just wonderful for the spooky season. The next book is The Perfect Ruin by Shonora Williams. This story is amazing. So this is a thriller, but it's not scary at all. It's just like thrilling. This girl basically lost her parents in an accident when she was young, but the person responsible for her parents' death was able to keep themselves hidden from the police. She has been in therapy for years trying to come to terms with what has happened, but her therapist has learnt the name of the person responsible possible. And she sets out to become best friends with this woman, and she completely gets involved in her life, and her mission is to take her down. And this is just so intense, so amazing, and also very funny to read. If you like the TV show You on Netflix, I think you would like this book because it feels like the exact same thing, except instead of the guy trying to date the women, it's this girl trying to befriend this woman. The next book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I feel like a lot of people have heard about this book, but it is definitely suitable for the fall season. This is basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling that is a little bit darker and very different. It's not like a cute happy fairy tale. There's some intense stuff that happens, but it's set, in a mysterious castle grounds. There's strange monsters around, and the ending is very intense. I haven't read the rest of the series yet, but this one I know for sure is great to read for this season. The next books I would recommend is the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. All three of these are just absolutely amazing. The second one was my least favorite, but I loved the first and the last one. This is very suitable for spooky season, but without being scary, because there's a lot of magic and mysterious circuses going on, and there's immortality in it. So this series is about two sisters who end up going to the Caraval circus, and basically a once a year thing. It's a game. The sisters get separated, and it's very interesting. I can't say too much more without spoiling it, but it's very sexy, very mysterious, very confusing because you don't know what's real and what's magic, and there's just so much intensity between the stories and the storylines, and the story develops so much with each book. You learn so much more, and the last one was just absolutely amazing. It blew my mind. The next book is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This book was just so interesting and I loved it. This is basically a Coraline retelling, but with some plot details changed. And this was so spooky and so eerie, and it's young adult, so it's not like too terrifying, and it was just wonderful. I really recommend this one. The next book is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This book is a wonderfully spooky story. This is about a girl named Naomi who has to go and visit her recently wedded cousin, and when she gets there, there's a lot going on in the family. Everything's really weird. Her cousin is sick and no one knows why, and there's just a lot of spooky stuff happening and mysterious things in the background. There was so much amazing stuff in this book that gets revealed that you would never expect coming, and there's so much history in the family, and it was just so amazing and freaky at the same time. The next book is This Woven Kingdom by Tahera Mafi. This was a stunning fantasy with Persian mythology woven in it, and it was just incredible. This is about a poor girl named Elise and a prince named Cameron. This is the first book in a new trilogy, so it's very introductory, but the entire book fits the fall season very well. It's very cold and very dark, and it's rainy, and there's a lot of struggles going on, and obviously there's also magic woven in this story, and it leaves you on a cliffhanger. And the next book is coming out early next year, so read this before that one comes out. And the last book I would recommend reading this fall is The Never Tilting World by Rin Chupeco. This story is about a world that is split in half by the weather. One half is scorching heat and sand and no water, and the other half is rains and storms. Basically, there are two princesses and two queens, obviously one in each side of the world. The princesses are sisters, but they don't know it. They're on a mission to try and fix what's happened to their planet. This has a lot of magic and spooky stuff in it, but it's also a wonderful story with two amazing romances that I would really recommend reading. This story blew my mind so much. Like, look at all these tabs. Like, read this one. It's so good. Okay, so now we're finally gonna go through this massive stack of books. These are all books that are on my TBR that I have not read, and I want to read them all this season. I don't know if I will, but if they interest any of you, then hopefully this is helpful. So we're gonna start off with the more spooky stories. The first one is As Old as Time by Liz Braswell. This is part of a collection of stories that are basically dark retellings of the Disney princess stories. I've read Part of Your World by Liz Braswell, which is Ariel's retelling, and I absolutely loved it, and I really want to read the Beauty and the Beast version. The enchantress who cursed the beast is actually Belle's mother, so I'm really excited to see where the story goes. The next book is The Grimrose Girls by Laura Pohl. This is about a girl who allegedly committed suicide at her school, but her friends don't believe it's a suicide. And then a new roommate comes in, and all four of them together want to uncover what happened to their friend during her final days. And then they discover that she wasn't the first girl who died at the school, and there's basically a curse involved, and they're trying to break the curse to prevent others from dying. I picked this up a while ago, but I was waiting for spooky season to read it, so I'm very excited for this one. The next book is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This book is about a girl named Jules who gets a job as an apartment sitter at the Bartholomew, which is a famous and secretive building in Manhattan. This seems like a really amazing lucky thing for her, but when she gets there, one of the apartment sitters goes missing, and then she starts to dig into the past of the building, and that escape may be impossible. So that sounds really, really good. The next book is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. I saw Haley Pham read this book and she said it was amazing. It's about this girl named Sophia who moves with her family to go live in Texas, and she meets this girl named Margot, and Margot is part of a group called The Hunting Wives. Sophia gets really invested into the group, and then the body of a teenage girl is discovered where the Hunting Wives meet, and then she finds herself in the middle of a murder investigation. And that just sounds really intriguing. The next book is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. This book is about a girl whose mother was dying and she asked the father for help, but he didn't help. So she killed her entire family, but she went to prison for a murder that she didn't commit, and now she's set on revenge. I've been meaning to read this one for a while, and it just sounds so interesting, and you're reading from her perspective the entire time, and that just sounds really cool. The next book is The Pink Hotel by Liska Jacobs. This book is about newlyweds Keith and Kit Collins. They are invited to stay at the luxury Pink Hotel in LA, but there are wildfires in LA and they are trapped in the hotel with ultra wealthy and dangerous guests. I am so intrigued by this book. Like, is it going to be a murder mystery? Is it just that there are crimes going on at the hotel? Like, I have no idea, and I can't wait to read it and find out. The next book is Bunny by Mona Awad. This book is about a group of rich girls at a university who call each other Bunny, and this new girl named Samantha is invited to join them. However, they take part in monstrous experiments and the edges of reality begin to blur. Soon, her friendships with Ava and the bunnies will be brought into deadly collision. So many people have been talking about this book, and I have seen it everywhere, and it's really short, so I'm really excited to read it this season. The next book is Layla by Colleen Hoover. This is another thriller by Colleen Hoover. Basically, Leeds and Layla are a couple, and Layla has been in a terrible accident, and so Leeds takes Layla to the bed and breakfast where they initially met, but when they get there, things start to go weird and Layla's behavior seems to change. At the same time, Leeds ends up meeting another guest named Willow, and he wants to help her and make her life better. So then he's stuck between making the choice between helping his wife Layla or helping this woman named Willow, but if he makes the wrong choice, it could be detrimental for all of them. I absolutely loved Verity by Colleen Hoover, so I'm really excited to read this one as well. The next book is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. This book has been described as a mix between Mexican Gothic and Rebecca. I've read Mexican Gothic and I've watched the movie Rebecca, and I really loved both of those stories, so I'm really excited to see how this one works out. I literally got this book months ago, but I've purposely been waiting to read it until this season, so I'm so excited for this one. The next book is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have watched so many movies and TV shows and different adaptations of the Dracula story, and I love all of them, but I've never read the original or fully understood it, so I really want to read this season. So the last book that is specifically spooky is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I don't know if it's Stephen King or Stephen King, so let me know. I have never read any Stephen King books before, but I've seen the movies and I've really enjoyed them, except for It with Pennywise. I didn't really like that one, but I'm really excited for this one. This is about a 17-year-old boy who gets a job working for a man named Howard who has a dog named Radar, but Howard dies and he has left behind cassette tapes telling the boy that there is a portal to another world in his shed in his backyard. This just sounds so interesting, and I've never read any Stephen King books before, and I really wanted my first read to be a story that I have no idea about, and since this is his brand new release, I thought, why not start with this one? Okay, so the rest of these books are not spooky related at all. They're just books that I really want to read this season. The first one is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I've seen this book everywhere on Instagram, so I really just want to read it. I have read the back of this book so many times and I still don't understand what it's about. It's about this girl who has a job at an art gallery and she lives in Manhattan. Her life is paid for, but there is a hole in her heart, and it's not just about the loss of her parents or the way her boyfriend treats her or her relationship with her best friend, but it is set in the year 2000. I feel like every book I've read is either set in the 60s, the 80s, the 1800s, or modern day. I don't think I've read any book that's set in the year 2000, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I managed to get this last week and everyone keeps talking about it and I really want to read it. So this book is about a girl named Lily. She moves from a small town in Maine to Boston and she meets a neurosurgeon named Ryle. Everything seems great, but then her ex, Atlas, shows up and Ryle is threatened. I don't know much about this story, but everyone says that there's something insane that happens in here, so I'm so excited to read it. The next two books I'm excited to read are Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. These are spin-off books from the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. The series is based on two characters from the second book, so I won't explain what it's about because otherwise I'll be giving away a spoiler, but I just got these in the mail. This one only just came out this week, but this one's been out for a while, but I decided to wait until this one came out so that I could read them both back to back, and I am so excited to read both of these. The next book is This Vicious Grace by Emily Thiede. This book is about a girl named Alessa. She's married 3 times and had to bury all 3 of her husbands because every touch kills them. Her island is being threatened and a powerful priest convinces everyone that the only way to save the island is to kill Alessa, so now she's on the run. So she hires Dante, a cynical outcast marked as a killer, to become her personal bodyguard. He holds a lot of secrets and he also holds the key to her heart, but is he the one person who can help her master her gift or destroy her once and for all? When I first saw this cover, I had no idea it was a fantasy, and that just sounds amazing. I am really intrigued and I want to know why her magic kills her suitors. Like, why? It's so interesting. The next book is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lin. This book is about a girl named Ning who accidentally mixed up a poison tea that killed her mother, and now her sister is also about to die from the same tea. She hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest master of the ancient and magical art of tea making, and she goes there to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister. But between the backstabbing competitors, the bloody court politics, and a mysterious boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one more in danger. This just sounds so interesting, and I want to know more about the tea making. I also love a story when a main character has lost a parent because that is my situation, and I'm just really excited to read this one. The next book is Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. I don't know anything about Hades and Persephone, so I want to look up the original story first and just get a general understanding, but this is meant to be a dark romance and I'm really interested to see what it's like. The next book is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So this series doesn't actually interest me, but I really want to read the Six of Crows duology, and everyone says you should read this series first. Some people say you can just go straight into Six of Crows, but personally I like to read it in the order that the author intended, so that's why I want to read this one. This is about a girl named Alina. She doesn't know that she has magic, and then when she finds out, she's recruited to the magical military elite and she falls under the spell of the Darkling. He believes that she can summon a force capable of destroying the Shadowfold and reuniting their war-ravaged country, but only if she can master her untamed gift. And then she ends up making a dangerous discovery that could threaten everyone she loves and the future of her nation. It doesn't sound bad, but it just sounds a little too complicated for me, but I just really want to read it so that I can read Six of Crows. The next book is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Everyone's been talking about this series, so I really just want to read it. This is about a girl named Jude whose parents were murdered when she was 7, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, but many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Carden, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. To win a place at the court, Jude must defy him and face the consequences. I don't know much about about it, but it sounds interesting and everyone loves it, so I'm really excited for this one. The next book is The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. So this is about a girl named Megan. Her father disappeared when she was 6, and then 10 years later, her brother also goes missing. She finds out that she's the secret daughter of a mythical fairy king and a pawn in a deadly war. So now she's on a mission to save her brother's life, and she ends up finding love with a young prince who might rather see her dead than let her touch his icy heart. This just sounds really interesting and very fall-like. I think this series has like 7 books in it, but I really want to read it, so I'm signing myself up for a lot, but I want to read it. The next book is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandria Christo. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling about a princess named Lyra. She's a mermaid and she kills one of her own, and so her mother, the queen, punishes her by turning her into a human. She has to deliver the prince's heart to the queen or remain a human forever. I love princess retellings, and that just sounds like such an interesting Little Mermaid retelling. The next book is Grave Mercy by Robin Lafevers. So there are like 5 books in this series and they all just sounded so interesting, so I really want to read it. So this is about a girl named Ismay who escapes from an arranged marriage, and she has been sired by the god of death to train in his arts. So the god of death wants her to kill someone who has stolen her heart. So this is another one of those books where they have to kill each other. I mean, I don't know if he has to kill her, but she has to kill him, and it just sounds really interesting and I really want to read it. The next book is Castles in Their Bones by Laura Sebastian. So this book is about an empress who has 3 daughters. She has trained her daughters since birth in the arts of deception, seduction, and violence, and their single goal is to bring down monarchies, and their marriages are the first step. But basically the mother has a lot of secrets and the princesses don't know everything that's going on, and that just sounds absolutely amazing. The next book is Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. So this book is about a girl named Sloane. She's 15 years old and she is a Scion, a descendant of the ancient Orisha gods, but her identity means her death, and her mother knew that, and her mother disappeared trying to hide Sloane's identity. On her 15th birthday, she is conscripted into the army. She has to conceal her power while overcoming the challenges of the training. As she infiltrates the Lucas, she has the ability to destroy the people responsible for her mother's disappearance, but she is afraid of losing herself entirely and becoming the very monster she abhors. So I don't know if there's any romance in this, but it sounds as if it's a fantasy without romance, and that just sounds very refreshing. Also, this is an African mythology with Orisha gods, and Skin of the Sea also had that, and I absolutely loved it, so I'm really excited for this one. The next book is Belle Morte by Bella Higgin. So this is about a house called Belle Morte where vampires live and they pay humans to be their living donors, but a girl shows up to this house looking for her sister who was there 5 months ago and she never returned. But the girl feels a pull towards a vampire named Edmond Dantes. She falls under his spell, and now her life might be forever changed, and she doesn't know if she's ever gonna find her sister again. This just sounds like a really cool vampire story. Also, I just love stories about sisters saving each other. And so the final book that I'm talking about in this video is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This book is 804 pages and it's a wonderful fantasy, and I just really want to read it. I have no idea what this book is about. I've just seen it everywhere and it seems like such an impressive book to read, so I just really want to read this one. So that is it. That is all the books I want to read this season. There are technically more books on my Goodreads to be read section, but I don't care. That's everything for this video. Let me know what books you guys want to read this fall, and comment down below if you've read any of these that I suggested. I am really excited to get reading, and I'm now surrounded by a pile of books that I need to clean up. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.